person who've ever done that. Just, I mean, for a reason to be outside and to be happy. So doing math outside, measuring. But I guess the moral of the story is thank goodness for measurement tools. I mean, thank goodness for the tape measure or the ruler or now GPS. Like, I mean, obviously we take a lot for granted with like knowing how far something is having GPS and all the different map systems we have. So, because measuring horses by hands is probably, you know, not the easiest way to do something. Horse needs to stand still. So we're going to talk about how to find the midpoint between 2 points on a coordinate system. This is our formula for midpoint. So this is another formula you'll want to know. And if you notice, it's really similar. It has similarities to the distance formula, but it's different enough to be confusing. Because rather than subtracting the x's, we're adding them. And we're dividing them by 2 instead of squaring them. So there's kind of a little bit difference here. And notice when you're done, they're going to be a coordinate point, because it's the middle point. So when you're finished, you'll end up with a midpoint as an answer. So you should have 2 parts as your answer. So if they want us to find the midpoint between these 2 points, you have to take the x's and add them and divide them by 2. Take the y's and add them and divide them by 2. So again, it might help to set up a little, like, kind of skeleton there that looks like a goofy face. You have a creative mind there. Do you see it? Kind of looks like a face, right? I think Bella will see it. Bella sees it? No? No. The 2 eyes, there's his little nose. He's got like, okay. All right. Have some creativity. All right. So we need to add the x's together. 8 plus a negative 14, divide by 2. And then negative 6 plus 12, divide by 2. Now, one of the things to remember with division like this is that that big long line is like a grouping symbol. So you have to add before you divide. So we get negative 6 over 2 and positive 6 over 2 when I add them. So I end up with negative 3 and positive 3 as my midpoint. So that would be the middle point between those 2 points on a coordinate plane. Now, if you have graph paper, you could actually graph it and check it and see that that looks like the middle, but you don't need to. You can just use the midpoint formula. All right, questions at all? So, like I said, we're gonna skip over the next question. I didn't put any like that in the homework anyway. So, I know I only did one example of midpoint, so if you want more help with that, I'd maybe suggest going to the end of the homework before you guys leave today and maybe work through some of the problems that are maybe the tougher questions. Sometimes you just start the homework, you're like, oh, it's easy, and then you get to like question 15 and you're like, yikes. So feel free to get started on this. So our book work is here, but the big thing is on the directions on 17 through 21. I'm changing the directions. You want to find both distance and midpoint, okay? And we have about 15 minutes to get started on that. Any questions? Everything should be online again. Always feel free to let me know if you go on there and you don't see something.